Hello and welcome to the review of the Minichamps Scale 118 resin model of the Kawai Steel WTS Reynard Spiess F903. This is a Formula 3 car as driven by German legend Michael Schumacher at the 1990 Macau Grand Prix. For those who don't know, the Macau Grand Prix is kind of the Formula 3 World Championship. It's an end-of-season blue ribbon event where all the domestic Formula 3 championships come together to have a race on the streets of the former Portuguese enclave in China. This prestigious event has some big-name winners like David Coulthard, Ralf Schumacher, or Takuma Sato. And if those names don't ring a bell, what about Ayrton Senna or Michael Schumacher then? Other famed participants include the likes of Max Verstappen, Nico Rosberg, Jenson Button or Lewis Hamilton trying to win the event but to no avail. And if you ever seen some onboards of this fast and daunting racetrack or played it even in a sim, you'll know this is a real racer circuit, arguably even more so than the Nordschleife. The 1990 event was a classic. Mika Häkkinen, the British Formula 3 champion, was a pre-race favorite. He had competed in the last round of the German Formula 3 Championship as well at Hockenheim to gauge some of the opposition and utterly dominated that event. The Finn started from pole at Macau. His biggest opposition in Macau was expected to come from German Formula 3 champion Michael Schumacher, who got soundly beaten on that day in Hockenheim by the way. He started the race in second. Other big-name participants at Macau were Eddie Irvine, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Mika Salo, Alessandro Zanardi or Olivier Panis. The race at Macau is run over two heats, with the aggregate standings being the overall result for the event. The first race was easily won by Häkkinen. Schumacher had a bad start and had to fight back past Laurent Aiello and Eddie Irvine to finish in second, some 2 seconds behind Häkkinen, who was cruising to the win. In the second leg, Häkkinen again started first with Schumacher second. A few laps later, Schumacher found a way past Häkkinen into the lead, but Mika easily kept up with Michael and was under his rear wing for almost the whole race, knowing that he didn't have to pass Schumacher to win the overall event. On the last lap though, he did make a move on the long straight towards Lisboa Bend, the first corner. Just when Häkkinen was darting right out of the slipstream to pass Michael, the German swerved right to block any move on the inside. The two collided, breaking the rear wing of Schumacher's car. Mika, however, fared less well, crashing into the wall and ending his race. Schumacher meanwhile limped home to the finish with his rear wing hanging out. By winning the second race and Häkkinen not scoring, Schumacher was declared the overall winner of the event, albeit in controversial fashion. Their rivalry would continue in the late 90s in Formula 1 of course. Minichamps released a 118th version of Schumacher's Macau Grand Prix winning car alongside his German Formula 3 Championship winning car. They also made a Japanese Formula 3 car from the Fuji round, a race in which Michael competed to prepare for the Macau Grand Prix. They even released a special Macau Grand Prix car complete with damaged rear wing and Michael punching the air, but at a whopping €250. The version as I have it here is the normal version, and I always wanted to have this model car, but when I started collecting years ago, the only model available was a 1/4/3 scale from Minichamps at a very inflated price, so I never got it. Basically, it cost as much back then as a new 118 scale. When Minichamps announced a version of this car, I was very excited to see it coming out. Model makers usually don't make junior Formula cars in scale 118, so I was very happy they decided to make this one. So let's start the review with the packaging, and it comes in this special packaging for the 25th anniversary collection of Michael Schumacher to celebrate his first title win in 1994 of course. It has some nice graphics on it in the Kawai steel colors of Michael's WTS Reynard, and it has pictures on it of Michael in Macau and all the logos necessary. And some more info on the sides as well. But pretty nice looking packaging. And it's edition 18 and number 1 of that edition. So inside you have the styrofoam clamshell that you always have with Minichamps resin Formula cars. And the model itself is set on the same standard base. All resin Formula cars are bolted on with Minichamps. The black, however, with all the model's info, is in a different type than Minichamps usually uses. The initial impressions of the model are quite good. I think the proportions, they look right. So let's have a look at the smaller details then. This is again a very clean and very simple car to nowadays standards. Simple aerodynamics, clean looking bodywork without too much wings or other aerodynamic appendages. The suspension is noticeable that it's very refined. It has some nice detail in it as well. Nothing too complicated there, of course, but it looks good. Underneath the front suspension you have these little triangles sticking out, and it's pretty noticeable and looks really cool as well. On this model, as it's a resin model, there's no steering functionality either, as you can see, and the wheels, they don't rotate either. Not that it's that important. Like always, I did some markings on the tires, on the wheels, to make it look more realistic. And the wheels themselves, they don't look too bad either actually. And I really like the inside rim, the golden copper color. And actually on the old release, the 143 release, the model had black wheels for some reason. The front wing then, it's one piece, in one piece as it was in real life, but with a little gurney flap on it, and they added it to the model as well. The end plates then, if you look at them from front or back, you can see they're not too thick, which is always good. If you then move towards the cockpit, you'll notice some nicely crafted body panel lines. Then moving towards the cockpit, looking at the figurine, you'll see it doesn't look too bad. It's maybe a bit thin, but maybe it's skinny, but it still looks okay, I think. Then the seat belts, they're just plastic, very thin plastic belts with some nice looking photo etched buckles, and they look quite okay. The helmet is also quite okay, but maybe just like in the review of the Alesi Tyrrell, the shape is maybe too modern looking, but yeah, it doesn't look bad, it doesn't look out of place. The dashboard then has visible dials on it, as you can see. Oh, I tried to zoom in too much. Anyways, you can see the dials, and you'll maybe be able to spot the gear shift stick on the right side of the cockpit. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I think you can see it. However, in the cockpit, the steering wheel is a disaster. It's only half a steering wheel for whatever reason, and I tried to find pictures of the real cockpit, but everything points to a normal round steering wheel, so certainly not towards this weird cut-off steering wheel that you have in this model car. And then I thought maybe mine is flawed, but all the models have the same cut-off wheel, so I don't know what happened there. If you then look at the side pods of the car, they're actually pretty cool. With these turnium vanes at the back especially, looks really good. And the side pods, you'll notice they're asymmetrical as they were in real life. The one on the right, there's openings, and the one on the left is totally closed up, so the right has the openings, as you can see. And then on the left is totally closed up at the front and at the back as well. So the one on the right is open at the front and has a radiator slit on the top, and again is opened up at the rear, and you have a heat shield on the floor as well, as you can see, the aluminium colored part, which looks really good. If we then look at the engine cover on the right side, you'll notice this typical Formula 3 style air intake. And they used this up until 2018, when the old Formula 3 basically died and was replaced what was then called GP3. The rest of the back of the model is quite detailed as well. I think the suspension, as I said, looks really refined. And the gearbox casing has some details in it as well, which which look pretty good, especially with that rod sticking out there on the right side. And then you have the exhaust exiting above it, and it looks quite okay. The rear wing is not too bad either. The top planes are not cut out, but they are made to look like it, with the slit in between the two planes. And the end planes again are not too thick and look quite refined. And then on the sides of the end plates itself, you have these rivet decals that I really like, and it looks nice. But I don't understand, when you do this on the rear wing, Minichamps, why can't you do it at the front wing either? There were supposed to be a few there as well. Anyways, the rear wing support looks actually pretty good. I really like that part with the holes in it. It looks really realistic. One last thing I noticed on the model is that the track width of the front, you see the track width, so the distance in between the wheels, is much narrower at the back than at the front. And looking closely at the footage of the race, I can understand why it looks like that, especially if you look at it from the front, because yeah, it goes into that perspective. But I can assure you this was not the case, so both front and back should be the same width. Luckily I could adjust it easily by ringing the rear wheels into a wider position basically. Unfortunately, this also means the rear wing of the car looks slightly too narrow, as does the floor of the car with the diffuser. And maybe they took the width of the rear wheels as a reference, hence why everything is looks maybe slightly too narrow. But yeah, maybe it's a problem that I would only see, but yeah, I can't unsee it for some reason. All things considered, I'm still very happy with this model. I don't feel like Minichamps disappointed me with this model, and I'll just have to see past those little flaws. So if you're a huge Schumacher fan like I am, you cannot miss this for the collection, especially at the seriously discounted price these models go for nowadays. So this was a review, I hope you liked it, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon in a next one. See you.